So some of the questions that get asked are, what are the opportunities for game developers? There are a lot of different jobs in the game industry. And a lot of people, when they hear about the game industry, they're like, oh my gosh, you know what? I want to be a game developer, right? That's the first thing. So game developer is the first one that everyone hears when they're coming in the industry. So, it's the one that people think about. It is the one that is related with software development. Okay. But the trouble is, everyone who's coming in, they may be wanting to go somewhere else, but they think that they have to start there. And so they start learning programming when maybe you just want to be a 3D artist, or maybe you want to be a concept artist. These are completely different roles in the game industry, which have nothing to do with software, right? Like when it comes to developing software, all right? For example, in graphics, you may want to learn 3D Studio Max or Maya. That's a different part. And those are generally 3D modelers, right? Or 3D artists. However, they'll end up thinking that, oh, I want to be a game developer. And many times I've seen a person who wants to be a 3D modeler end up taking courses, expensive courses in game development. And they're like, why am I learning C#? Right? And it's like, you're right. Like, why are you learning C# if your plan was to become a 3D modeler, right? So these are the sorts of things I want to alert you now, if you're new to it, to know what the different, job categories are. And this is just a simple list. There are many more, but I want you to know that you just don't have to start as a game developer. Okay, you could start elsewhere and still be part of the industry. So game developer is the first thing that people think about. The other ones are game audio. Okay, and so that is, the sound, right? The sound of audio. How does it work? And there's a difference between game audio and game musician, because both have very different roles. Many times they'll be mixed into one, especially when you're working with startups, they merge the two. But game audio is, hearing the sound in a different way for games, all right? Specifically for games, because when you're making audio, you're not making just a generic sound. You need to think about all the different sounds and how they're going to interact, all right? So it's a very different sort of mentality. And so there are courses and tools that are available for that. But game audio is a different section. Game music is a different section altogether, right? You're creating melodies, you're creating music, and you have to understand what kind of music there is, okay? The next one, 3D modeler. This is when you're actually creating graphics. You're the one who's responsible then to actually create these 3D models, and not just create them in a generic way, like with maximum polygons. A 3D game modeler has to actually focus on minimizing polygons because of the way it will actually, work in different platforms. It's a very important role, and it takes a different level of thinking. But the tools that you'll see inside of there are like 3D Studio Max, Maya. You've got Blender, you've got ZBrush, and a whole bunch of other things. The sort of things that you'll learn inside of there are rigging and animations and boning and IK or inverse kinematics, right? And how the body and bipeds move. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that goes into 3D modeling. And once again, it's a job in itself. And so 3D modelers get paid very good money as well. All right, so that's another area. 2D artists. You're going to see a lot of these people. The graphic artists, they're concept artists. There's people who will create, incredible things that are meant to be shown on screens. All right. And so, in the 2D art world, you'll hear things like GIMP, Photoshop, Inkscape. You'll hear things like Illustrator, right? So that's the sort of stuff when you're thinking about 2D artists. Right, and things like Spine. I think it's Spine, and then there's a few others that could do the same types of things like inverse kinematics and bones and rigging. So 2D artists are very, very important. Concept artists as well are, will fall into the 2D artist realm. And so what ends up happening is with concept artists, their goal is to create the sort of stuff that you guys would see if you ever went into like the bookstore and you're looking at this concept art of like Zelda and how they come up with characters and what these characters look like. It's a very important role because many times we'll have a character that we're designing in a game and we need to visualize what they look like. And, what are the characters' features, right? What are they going through? Are they an angry character? Are they a happy character? Is it a dark type of scene or is it a bright scene? What does that look like? Those visuals help out the other artists on the team to really build those visuals into the 3D space with the lighting and the art to really get that mood. So very important role. Front-end web dev and back-end web dev. These are software development things, and they're very important as well, right? There's many times that users have to come into the website. So think of your favorite video game, and you had a user account. You had to go into a website, and you had to put in your username and password. and you need to be able to get access to your game stats, your coins, or your what's been going on. Maybe you want to buy things in game, right? Front end web developers, very important, right? They have the whole entire website on what people will see, what gamers will see, right? And then the back end web dev, very important as well, right? How does that stuff connect? What are the databases and all that, right? Those are also very important roles, but they're part of the game dev industry as well when you're doing it as a game developer. The interesting thing is that I will see people who come in front end and back end web dev, they gain the skills that they need in the game industry, which is fun, but then they can use those skills across many different industries because that is something that everyone is using all the time across many different software industries. Once again, good money in web dev. All right, there is very good money in web dev. Game producers. These are the people who bring everything together. They're the ones who take the audio, the code, the music, the modeling, the art, and the web dev. They bring it all together. They make sure that everything is running the way it should. These are the people who are taking the storyboards and making sure that the storyboards make sense, right? They know the progression. They know what's going on. It's very similar to a movie producer, right? Who are the characters, the actors in the scene? What is it that we're trying to show? What are we trying to do? All right. Now, many times when game developers are starting out, they play all of these roles. All right. That's the thing. You're usually one or two developers and you're putting on all of these hats, right? And it can be very daunting. But as you start expanding, you'll start seeing that these roles are very separate and very, very different. Next one, DevOps. So these are the people who are responsible for how the software is created. So, you've got a game. At the end of the day, you want to make sure that no one sees this yet because it might have bugs. So you have what we call a staging environment where you can make all your edits as a developer and then, it's okay because no one else is seeing it. But then when it's ready to go, you would want to put it into maybe a sandbox environment where now beta testers can test this out, not the final users. So you have beta testers testing this out. And then finally, you've got a production environment, which is where all the final users are seeing it. And so the DevOps person, it's their goal to automate that entire process and system so that that entire pipeline happens all at the same time. These are the people who deal with things like Kubernetes, with DigitalOcean, with the servers, with Amazon AWS. These are the ones who are dealing with QA servers, setting them up, making sure that things are automated and so on. So very important role. DevOps get paid a lot of money. All right. But it requires a lot of work, okay? So it is not something that is for the faint of heart. But the nice thing is about DevOps that you can use it across many different industries, okay? DevOps is required everywhere. So if you're looking to, join the game industry to learn about other industries, or you're planning to just, join the game industry to learn software or to development, and you're planning to join another industry later, DevOps, front end and back end web dev, those are great places to kind of like get into. You can also get into game dev as well. You'll learn some of the C# skills there as a game developer. Next, game testers. These are generally entry positions and entry position roles. Game testers are a lot of fun, but they can be very boring. Okay, I'm warning you up front. A lot of people think that, I'm going to be a game tester. It's going to be so much fun. Usually, when you're going in and you're starting off as in a game company, you're like, I got a job as a game tester. The trouble is, a game tester is actually part of a QA environment or quality assurance environment. And what ends up happening is your goal as a game tester is to continuously play the game over and over and over again to find bugs. That is it, right? And so what ends up happening is a QA person, a quality assurance person will give you a list of tests to do. And your goal then is to play test it and say, okay, well, if I click on this button, the character should jump. All right, then I did that. Cool, I can check that off. If I click on this button, the character should run. Did that? Cool, check that off. If I click on this button, the treasure chest should open. I clicked on it. Oh, it's not working. Boom, I'm going to mark that as wrong. Once you do all that, you give it back to the QA person who then looks at it and says, okay, these are the issues. All right, this one here is important. This one's not important. All right, let me take this and give it back to the software dev team. All right, and so that's the sort of progress that happens. But game testers, they play an important role, and they're part of the whole quality assurance side of things. Which brings me to my next point of quality assurance. Okay, it is a very important role as well.